Okay, so today I'm so excited to introduce our guest speaker. We have today Vasanti Didi, Srimati Vasanti Didi.
Oh, please.
So I was thinking, so Didi actually doesn't need much of an introduction because everyone does know her, but still, I was thinking just like anyone who knows Srila Gurudev, they kind of know Madhav Maharaj, just like that, whoever knows Srimati Shamarani Didi knows Vasanti because standing right behind Shamarani Didi, supporting her and helping her to do all her projects is always Vasanti Didi and has been for the last 18 years. 18 years of being a personal assistant to Didi and traveling with her and taking care of all her needs, her health, her travel, her diet. Every time she's gotten unwell, it's always been Vasanti who's taken care of her, and most of all, I think on a daily basis, communication. Um, Vasanti is always communicating with everyone around the world, and I was just actually when I was singing this bhajan, something came to mind. Um, I think it was Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj that would say that seva is with responsibility. And when I think about this, it's when you do seva without responsibility, then it's just volunteering, you know? There's no responsibility or commitment there. But when I think about service and responsibility, I can't think of anyone better than Vasanti because she takes full responsibility. She, with her life, she takes care of Didi. And this is something that everyone knows, but I think there's so many things that people don't know that happen like behind the scenes with Vasanti Didi. And that's just a couple of things I'll mention because there's probably so many things that I even don't know. But she's one of the senior members of GBC, no, GVP, GVP, and she's probably the highest book distributor in the world, I think, or at least the US. She has containers. There's like the Bhakti store containers that come in, and then she has her own. There's the Vasanti containers. There's so she takes such a big responsibility to distribute Gurudev's books, and I think I've learned over the years that there's not many sevas that are so dear to Gurudev as much as distributing his books. Um, the latest video that I'm currently obsessed with is Gurudev telling that, oh, you distribute 10 books, I will give Shraddha. Distribute 100 books, I will give this. And then, oh, 1,000 books, Ruchi. So and then also reading in this amazing book that Srimati Shamarani Didi put together, The Soul of Book Distribution, which is such an amazing book. And I think everyone should read this. It will give life to our book distribution seva. It will give so much enthusiasm. And in this book also, it's clearly stated multiple times that book distribution equals pure bhakti. And it's as simple as that. So not only is Vasanti Didi doing herself, but she's always encouraging other people to distribute books, and including myself. I think my first proper book distribution was with Vasanti Didi last year, where we just went outside of a grocery store and distributed books, and it was scary. Yeah, it was scary to when I thought about it, but when we were out there, it was amazing. It was just like we just felt like Gurudev's mercy flowing, and the books just attracting people themselves. And then of course, she's always encouraging my husband, who's Sajjan, who's always going out and doing book distribution as well. And so that's with book distribution. But then there's another amazing seva, which hopefully we'll hear in elaborate form from Didi herself, but it's the prison seva. It's a very extensive prison program here in the US to give mercy to the most, people that have very little hope and very little mercy and are literally in cages. So, and Didi is enabling that, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu going out to Jaga and Madai. This is the literal seva that she's doing, and I think thousands of books are going out. And then um, Bimala Didi is listening, but her husband is also so heavily involved. So we'll hear a little bit more about this, but it's just such an inspiring seva. And so, yeah, I mean, this was a very long introduction, but there's just so much we can go on, and with such an inspiring person like Didi. But I hoped that we can hear how she met Gurudev and all her interactions and whatever she can recall, her memories and her upbringing as well. Because a couple of things I want to just mention is that Didi comes from a very affluent family, and whenever we hear this, it's like, wow. And she, Sachin always remembers, like, she used to sit courtside at the LA Lakers game and things like that. So this is not a joke. Like, she comes from a very big family, and she has a master's degree in social work. And I thought that was really interesting because she's doing the best social work right now. So, and then giving up all that and then, coming to Gurudev, that's such a fascinating thing. So, I'm gonna, introduce now and ask Vasanti Didi, my dear friend, to come on and please speak.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Jnanatimandasya Gyananjana Sadakaya Chakshurunnitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Gosvami Namane Panchakalpajivascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare. So first of all, I offer my heartfelt to our beloved Holy Master Nityala Vishnu Pada Sotso Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami Maharaj. Also unto my Shiksha Guru Nityala Vishnu Pada Sotso Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Bharti Goswami Maharaj. Unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of our Guru Varga, our guardians on this path of bhakti. So, well, I'm a little bit, what do they say, dumbstruck after hearing all of that. But yes, Hari Priya is a dear friend. So thank you so much for all that encouragement, and gave me a lot of different thoughts, actually, of things that I hadn't thought about that I'll share. So, and thanks so much to Jai Prabhu for inviting me and for organizing this every daily Gurudev memories. It's so beautiful. So I went on Govardhan Parikama, and also so many, being at Gurudev's Govardhan temple, I lived there for 3 winters, so many memories were coming there also, so that was really nice. But I'll start with how I met Srila Gurudev, and a little bit, as Hari Priya Didi said, my upbringing. So I was, like she said, raised in an affluent Jewish family in Los Angeles. And I was the only religious person in my family. I loved going to temple. It was a house of God, and I'd ride my bike there, and I'd go 3 days a week. And the rest of my family went twice a year, and for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, for the 2 major holidays. And I remember as a young kid, that you had to buy tickets to go to these holidays, because we lived in a really rich area. So to go to temple, you had to buy tickets. I was like 8 or 9, and I was like, why do you have to pay to go to the temple? Like, why do you have to pay to worship God? It made no sense. And that was my first, but I didn't know anything else besides Judaism. So I'm very grateful to Judaism. Definitely brought me close to God. So I would go 3 days a week. I loved it. Time went on. And my household became a little bit virulent. Is that a word? It's the word that just popped in my head. Anyways, there was some turbulence in my household, and so I kind of took refuge at the temple. And then I went to college and just got caught up in total,
Vasanti,
breaking all the. Sorry?
Can I get you to slow down just
Yes,
a little
yes.
bit?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of Indian, maybe people that don't know a lot of
Yeah,
English.
thanks for that. I have a tendency to speak fast, so
No
thank you.
worries.
So then I went off to college, breaking all the four regular principles. And then I continued my education. I went to graduate school across the country from where I'm from. And again, because I was searching for this happiness, I was searching in graduate school. I was going everywhere, to the Theosophy Center, to the Unitarian Church, I would see one day I saw these Christians 3 times in the same day. I'm like, oh, maybe this was meant to be. Maybe it's a sign, you know. And so I was going here and there, different places, but not finding, the answers. I would go to the Jewish temple, the Jewish services, but it was so boring. And so because I could not find the answers to why, like, who am I? Why am I suffering? Especially my house family life. Why was there so much fighting? Why is my mother so mean? Why am I born in this family? That, like, I turned, to intoxicants to kind of escape all that, but still on a quest for God. So after I finished while I was in graduate school, my best friend in Los Angeles, Srimati, she had started taking martial arts, and she was calling me while I was in graduate school. And she was saying, my martial arts teacher is so spiritual. I can't wait for you to meet him, like this. So I came back after I finished school. 1998, I graduated, and I moved back to Los Angeles. And my purpose in Los Angeles was just to I was going to move to Israel. I thought, I can read and write in Hebrew. I don't understand the language. Let me go explore my roots. And this was my plan. So I was with my parents' house, which I hadn't lived in years, and I didn't like living in. And during that time, I started taking martial arts from Shivananda Sainadas. And him and my best friend, they weren't married yet. So if you wanted a martial arts lesson with him, you had to pick him up from where he lived, drive to the park, and then bring him back. So we have a couple nicknames for him. And one is JJ, which stands for Jabberjaws. He will speak and speak and speak and speak. He'll just speak and talk your head off. Lots of good things to say, but he goes on and on and on. So I told him I was going to move to Israel. He said, okay, let me teach you some martial arts, because Israel's a very dangerous place. So I started doing martial arts with him, and it was, everything he had to say was so fabulous. And before martial arts class, he would give Harikatha, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, these concepts that I never heard before, but that were so familiar that I was searching for, that he would say, in martial arts class, you'll get hurt, but the body doesn't get hurt. The soul doesn't get hurt. Only the body gets hurt. Things like that were just, made so much sense. So in the meantime, my parents were urging me to either go to Israel or get a job. So I got a job, and I moved out, and I started that was 98. For a year, we were all day Saturday, all day Sunday was martial arts and different cardiovascular exercises. So after 1 year, Shivananda said to Krishnamai and I, do you trust me? And we said, yeah. He said, okay, will you come with me somewhere tonight? That might be a little different for you. And we said, sure, of course. So he brought us to the LA ISKCON temple. And it was quite different. In Judaism, they don't believe in idols and idolatry. And, so the Didis, seeing Thakurji was a little odd. And seeing the way people dressed, especially the men, the dhotis, was a little peculiar, just so foreign. But the kirtan, the kirtan was just, the first kirtan I attended blew me away. And we started going on Harinam from 1999 till 2000, every Saturday night Harinam, every Sunday night at the temple. And it was the highlight. I only missed twice in that year. And the night I missed, my week was just not the same. So we were at the Prabhupada, there's a huge Prabhupada festival, and we were there, and Krishnamai and I, we were ready to go home, and we were searching for Shiva, and we couldn't find him. So in our search, one lady approaches us on the street, because it's a big street. And one lady approaches us and she was like, girls, can you come to my apartment for a minute? And we were like, okay. When you're new, you think everyone's a pure devotee. So we were like, okay. So we go to this lady's apartment, and she said, I never do this, but my guru is telling me to tell you that he's coming tomorrow. And we were like, okay. And she opens a drawer. We didn't know the politics at that time. So we didn't know that her apartment was owned by ISKCON and she had to be secretive. We didn't know any of that. So she opens a drawer and she takes out a flyer. She said, this is my guru and he's coming tomorrow. And I know this sounds crazy, but I hear him, he's telling me to tell you that he's coming and you need to come. And we were like, we thought this lady was nuts, you know? And we were like, okay. She's like, write this down. I'm like, can't we just have, and she was like, write it down. So we write, you have to come. We're like, okay, we got you. So we go out, we find Shivananda.
You
Pardon?
just cut out. Was it just for me, Ajay Prabhu, but thoda cut out hua na? I didn't
think
hear.
she's breaking up a little bit. Probably if you
Okay.
open that door, Didi, maybe it will be better, probably. Because the signal, it doesn't come so good in Vrindavan. So if you open the door behind
It might be my,
maybe it's better, probably. Or windows, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe I'll put my camera off. Maybe it'll give you more bandwidth.
I don't
okay.
think
It's okay now.
it seems a little better, but you can just I mean, it was kind of important what you were just saying. I didn't want to miss that. If you want to just repeat, I think the last thing I can recall is, she said, my guru wants to, something, I don't never do this, and I'm giving you the flyer. So we can start from there.
Yes. So she tells us to write down the information. We must come. And I said, okay. So we go back out, we find Shivananda, and we tell him this, she invited us to meet some guru. And so we were taking music lessons at the time. We had Krishnamai was learning mridanga and I was learning harmonium from a Prabhupada disciple who got an order from Srila Prabhupada to continue teaching music. So the next day came, it was a Monday. I believe it was a work day. We both worked. And we said, should we go see this guru or should we go to our music lesson? So we're like, oh, let's go to our music lesson. So we go to our music lesson. And when we get there, the teacher, his name is Hari, his son said, oh, my father's not here. We said, but we have an appointment, we had a lesson. And he said, oh, he went to go see Srila Narayana Maharaj. We were like, whoa, if he went, then we have to go. So we sped there. We sped as fast as we could. And we were a little nervous for a few reasons. One was, why did this lady tell us in secret? Two, like, was it different? Or like, why wasn't the guru in the temple, in the ISKCON temple? Two, a little embarrassed to say, but it's a good part of the story. We were intoxicated. And three was, those were the two things. Anyways, we go and we came in and we go in and we sit down and everything was the same. Like we looked at the altar, we're like, wow, there's Srila Prabhupada. And the Didi, everyone looked the same. Thakurji was there and everyone's dressed the same. And so it was the appearance day of Lord Nishingadev. And we had never heard that pastime. And so, when the sannyasis do their little skit and that, so the class was going on and we're like, this is phenomenal. And all of a sudden in the part of the story, Ashram Maharaj says, Shripad Ashram Maharaj says, stop this chanting. And I freaked out. I was like, I turned to Krishnamai, I was like, what's going on? And then it was all, part of the katha. And it was just phenomenal. Two other amazing things happened that night was I had been, the year I was going to ISKCON, I asked if I could hear a class from a woman because, men and women have different thought processes. And I really wanted to hear a class from a woman. So they told me I could come to the Gurukul. And I said, I work, I can't come. And I'm not a kid, like I can't come to the Gurukul. And then they told me they would introduce me to a Prabhupada disciple and I could go to her house. And I said, I only have Sundays free. I mean, I lived an hour and a half away and was working. So that didn't work out. So then when Gurudev called on Shamrani Didi in this first class I heard, I was just blown away. I was just like, wow. So then at the end of the class was phenomenal. The kirtan was phenomenal. And then when Gurudev was leaving, so the person who actually had told us about Gurudev, her name is Sri Vrinda. She's the mother of Madhu Mangal. Sri Vrinda came up, brought us up, and she said, Gurudev, I met these two girls at ISKCON yesterday, and I just knew that they had to meet you. And Gurudev just looked at us, and then he whacked Krishnamai across the head. He just went, boom, like really hard. And we thought it was hilarious because we were martial artists and we would fight full contact. I mean, no gear. Shivananda would say, if you get in a fight on the street, you're not going to have pads on. So you need to learn to fight. So we thought it was hilarious. But Sri Vrinda was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I've never seen him hit a girl before. So Krishnamai and I were laughing. Krishnamai was kind of the ringleader of us, like in all of our what should I say, breaking of the four regs. she would kind of, I was kind of more of a follower. She was the leader. She'd be like, come on, even when I didn't want to. I was like, okay, So she felt like that's why he hit her. And she said she felt her head spinning for like a whole 24 hours. So, she said she felt like he knocked the nonsense out of her. So anyways, it was phenomenal evening. And the next day, all the devotees were telling us they're going up to this mountain called Badger. We should come. And we're like, yeah, we're going to come. Anyways, we got back. I was a social worker. Krishnamai was a teacher. And so we didn't go that year. But we got in touch with all of Gurudev's disciples that were in LA, and we started going to the programs. That was in May 2000. Gurudev came back 6 months later. He was traveling around the world twice. So we came back December. And Shivananda didn't come that first night. He was taking care of his son, who was 4 at the time. So we all 4 of us went to San Diego, and we all got initiated together in December 2000. So I was living in LA, and in 2001, I came to Kartik for the first time, life altering, changed my life. 2002, I met Anita, and Anita was going to come to India for 6 months, and she said, oh, you should come with me. And I was like, okay. I didn't really have anything else going on. It's very difficult in Los Angeles in the respect that everyone was Grihasta, and I was just kind of alone. And even though my best friends are there and we would do everything together, still I thought, let me go to India. So I came to India in 2002 with the idea of coming for 6 months. And then we were we had heard from the person that was previously traveling with Shamrani Didi that they didn't want to go anymore. So we were on the bus one day on Parikrama, and Anita just finished her mantras, and she looked at me and she said, maybe we can go with Shamrani Didi. And I was like, are you crazy? Like, we were 2 years old devotees, just off of, all the bad things. And I was like, we're just so new, that just doesn't seem appropriate. So anyways, I had a year prior to that, we had started helping Shamrani Didi with some typing seva for her book, The Art of Spiritual Life. 2001, it just came out 2 years ago. But so we went to her and we said, we were thinking that maybe we could go on tour with you. And she is such a hilarious person. For those of you who've gotten to be around her, besides her serious, strict, major sadhu, she's so down to earth and funny. And so she said, well, it doesn't look like Krishna's sending anybody else. So let's ask Gurudev. Let's ask Brajanath Prabhu. So we asked Brajanath Prabhu, and Brajanath Prabhu said we can try it. And at that time, Gurudev would pay for Shamrani Didi's ticket and one assistant. With this, we were getting around the world tickets. So Anita and I put all the money we had left together, and we bought a second ticket. And we went on the first tour, left after Kartik. Our first stop was Australia to December of 2002. And we were so new and we did everything wrong, but it was just the most phenomenal, I hadn't, in ISKCON, I hadn't really heard so much because I was bored in their classes. I loved Shivananda Prabhu's Harikatha. So we had some foundation. I had a really, nice foundation, but I didn't know so much. anyways, on that tour, our first stop was Australia, and Gurudev spoke. First we were in Brisbane, then we went to Murwillumbah. And in Murwillumbah, there was a rumor going around that, or someone said that we didn't, an acharya of some mott said that Diksha initiation is not required. And Gurudev was really upset about that statement. So he gave a series of classes, which later became Gurudeva, the book. And he invited Srimati Didi, he called Srimati Didi to his room to kind of dictate some things that he wanted her to put in this article in Gurudeva. So we go in, Maharaja brings us into Gurudev's room, and Gurudev was writing at that time. And he didn't even see us. Like the three of us were sitting, me, Anita, Srimati Didi were sitting there. And Gurudev, he had his table that he would write on, and he had a stack of books, and he opened one book and he was taking some notes, and then he would slam it down. And then he took another book and he was writing, and he slammed it down, like 4 books, and he slammed it down. This went on for like 15 minutes. And Anita and I were just like, wow, we get to see like Gurudev's writing and his, it was like a line. And then after he was done, he arranged everything on his table perfectly, put everything neat, and his pen in its place. And he looked up and he said, oh, you are here. And they started dictating all these things he wanted Srimati Didi to include in the book. So then immediately Anita and I are thrown into working on this book, Gurudeva, and learning how to do layout. I mean, I was a social worker. I had no idea about computer stuff. And we were working, I mean, like day and night, barely sleeping. And the next place we went to was Hawaii. And in Hawaii, Gurudev installed Govardhan in the Hilo, the temple there in Hilo. And Anita and I were working nonstop. We'd go to class, go back to the hotel room, go to class. And on Anakut, we were so excited for a huge feast and to sit with all of our friends, that we hadn't seen in a while. So we're at the end of the installation. Gurudev went back to his room. Srimati comes up to us and she said, I arranged for someone to bring prasad to the hotel room so you can keep working. We were so upset. We were like walking behind her back to the hotel, dragging our feet, and we were just grumpy. But I look back now, actually, on so many instances like that happened, and I look back now that how much I've learned from Srimati Didi about not that I'm there yet, but just what is real Guru Seva. That Seva comes first before anything. With her, it's even her physical. I'm more like, I need my sleep, I need this, I need that. But definitely, I can say. So then I was fortunate to get to be on tour with Gurudev for 8 years, and we went everywhere with him. And I definitely feel like I'm just kind of recovered from those 8 years, especially when I get to be in India for some time, like now. The lockdown was amazing for me. Because traveling on a plane every week, and a different diet, different time zone, Gurudev, it was just so amazing to see how transcendental Gurudev is. Like, he would get to a place, and I would be dying for days. Like, and I would think like, oh, now it's midnight in Brazil, but it's, lunchtime here, but I want to sleep or whatever. If it's breakfast time in the other country, I wanted that meal instead of, a lunch meal. Or Gurudev would get there and he would adjust instantly, whatever time it was, that's what he would do. It's just so. And I remember we were on this one flight from from Brazil to Germany. It was like a 15-hour flight. And it was so amazing. I could see Gurudev was in first class. I could see his turban from my seat. It was my meditation the whole flight. It's so beautiful. Yeah. So when we got off the plane, we're in the line for customs, and I'm just like dying. I have to sit down. And Gurudev's just perfect. None of his clothes even, moved. Everything was perfectly like ironed. How it just, I don't know, they seems maybe like little details, but to me, they were just to witness that was just. And he was, as we were in line for customs, he was just japa walking in the queue as we're waiting for luggage. And they would always get their luggage checked because they had a whole kitchen, so all the knives. And then he came out. I remember when the doors open and there's big kirtan going on, he would come out and just, hug everyone. And anyways, I we worked on that Gurudeva until we started it in December. Then we went to America in February. We gave it to Gurudev for his Vyasa Puja. And the end result always of giving books is always so amazing. So when we were in Brazil that same year in 2002, it was really, really hilarious. That's when Shamrani got her name, Question Rani, because we were in this darshan and Shamrani was like, Gurudev, Gurudev. And he's like, Gurudev, Gurudev, what? Gurudev. She's like, I have another question for you. He's like, questions, questions, questions. You're made of questions. From now on, I'm going to call you Question Rani. And then he said, if you want to ask me any more questions, you have to pay me. So Shamrani turns to the, like 50 devotees. We were all standing up, I remember. It was a big crowd. And she turns to the devotees and she said, can I borrow some money from someone? So one devotee actually pulls out everything in his pocket. It was equivalent to $1,000. And he gave the whole thing to Shamrani Didi. And so she looked at it and it was $1,000. She said, Gurudev, here's $1,000. That's going to give me 10 questions, $100 each. So it became this pastime for the next, till 2010 that every time she would ask him a question, she would ask me for some money because Didi Shamrani never handles any money. She has so much faith and trust in me for some reason. And anyone who gives her a donation, she's instructed me very, very to offer everything on the altar and to pray, to give it to Gurudev or Prabhupada and pray that this will only be used in their service. So on tour with Gurudev, we would keep Gurudev. Gurudev would tell us we should always have $100 on us for emergencies. And then
before that, I don't think she even kept that $100.
Yeah, she never had any money. And then when I started in 2002, he said we should have $100 on us for emergencies. And then I remember the pastime that moved me, one pastime moved me so much. I don't remember who it was, but when Gurudev was preaching with another godbrother, and he kept some money for himself for the bus fare, and he only gave whatever they collected. Maybe they collected 100 rupees. He kept 80. He kept 20 for himself, and he gave 80 to Param Gurudev. And Param Gurudev said, "You don't understand. You're collecting money from, when you give me this money and I put it in my pocket, I purify it, and then I give it back." So we did this with Gurudev always. Everything we collected for our tickets and anything, we would give it to Gurudev, and then Gurudev would ask us if we need anything. So that was really phenomenal. So I'll just kind of randomly, I was going to just share about Govardhan because I was there today, which was so phenomenal. In 2004, Gurudev was starting to build the Govardhan Mat, and the sculptor who would do the sculptures, all over India for all the temples, the Mahaprabhu pastime, Krishna Leela, Ram Leela, he was so expert in that, but he didn't know how to do Govardhan Leela, and Gurudev wanted Govardhan wall paintings. So Gurudev asked Sharmani and a team to make the line drawings, and he would copy those line drawings for the bas reliefs on the wall. So they did that. And then when it came time to paint them, he said, "I've never painted Govardhan Leela. I don't know how." So Gurudev called us in Mathura and said, "Sharmani, I want you to go to," this was a month before Kartik, "I want you to go to Govardhan and paint all the wall paintings in time for Kartik." So Anita and I, Sharmani, at that time also, there was no cell phones in Vrindavan. So we went around, Anita and I went around all of Vrindavan to everyone's place, everyone we knew who was an artist, and we would go knock on their door like Bakula and Vasudev and all these devotees and tell them Gurudev is sending us to Govardhan to paint these wall paintings. And we got about 40 devotees, and we rented a bus, and we all picked up and moved the next day to Govardhan. There was no kitchen there. There was nothing that we see there now. There was no grass and everything in front, the grass, there's nothing there. And there was no temple room yet. There was temple room. It was all dirt. There was no marble floor. There was no altar. So they set up the scaffolding for us. And at that time, there was a kitchen crew. There was Anita and I who were just kind of doing our other seva, and Manjari took the lead with Sharmani Didi on being the director, the art director of this project. So they were painting and painting and painting, you know, day and night, kind of marathoning. There was scaffolding in the front, there was scaffolding in the back when you circumambulate Thakurji. Those were the paintings that they did. So a week before, so many phenomenal things happened actually during that time. One, we were also working on the book Shiva Tattva, which I was, just to backtrack, we were in Malaysia, that Shivaratri, before, I guess it was 2004. And the devotees took me to the Shiva temple on top of a hill, and it was packed. I mean, thousands and thousands of people all day and night. And I was lamenting that moment that I had nothing to give them. I had no book to give them, like about Lord Shiva. I was like, oh, maybe we can put Gurudev's lectures that he's given on Lord Shiva into a book. So when I came back to India in Mathura, I went to Gurudev and I said, Gurudev, I was in Malaysia on Shivaratri, and there was thousands and thousands of people coming to the Shiva temple. So I was thinking, if you think it's a good idea, we could put your lectures about Lord Shiva into a book. And that's when I got my first head pat. He patted my head and he said, very good idea, very good idea.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
it was really amazing, actually. So when we were so there was some of us working on this book in Govardhan. And even Manjari and Shamrani were also working on the book as they were also painting. But there was Jayashri from America and Vasanti. There was a bunch of us working on the book. And the Malaysians, actually, I told the Malaysians Gurudev liked the idea. They told me they would pay for it. So we were working on this book and we were painting. Well, this was the next year. I'm sorry. It was the next year. This was the second year we were in Govardhan. So let me go back to the first year during Kartik. So the first year during Kartik, so a week before Kartik, Govardhan Parakram, because we didn't go to the Vrindavan Parakram, we were painting. So Brajanath and Vrinda Didi came. They would come to check out the rooms. So when they came, only the front was being worked on. The back actually had not been worked on yet. There was no paint on the walls even. And Brajanath Prabhupada said, that's okay, just get the front done. And you can do the back later. And then Manjari and Sharmani were like, no way. No walls can be white. And then Manjari came to Anita and I and all the kitchen crew and said, everybody has to paint. And I was like, I've never picked up a paintbrush in my life. So she taught me, she doesn't matter. She said, the walls are huge. Like when you're on the ground and you look up, they're big, but when you're up there in front of them, I mean, they're ginormous. So she said, I'll just teach you how to paint in the wall. Just get the first color down. So everyone was painting. And so many miracles actually happened. One time up on the wall, this boy, Chuta from Germany, he was painting Lord Shingadev, and he stepped back to look at his work, and the scaffolding broke and he fell back. It's probably like 4 or 5 flights, I would think. And he fell and he landed on the hard floor, and he just stopped for a minute. And he stood up and he was like, and everyone, he was like, I'm fine. And we were just like, Jai Shingadev. We were just like, it was really incredible that he was not even hurt. And another thing that happened was the fumes were making us all really sick and kind of intoxicated, but intoxicated in a bad way, just spaced out. And because we were using this nasty Indian paint and oils. And so one night Sharmani came to Anita and I and said, first she said, I want to tell you something, but I can't even remember what I want to tell you. That's how bad the paint, because there's no windows in the back. So then she said, I want you to go to Delhi tomorrow and buy water-based paint. So we don't have to mix it with this, bad turpentine that we're getting here in Govardhan. So Nita and I were like, okay, no big deal. We thought, and we get on the bus and we go to Delhi and we go to the first art shop, and they had only one package of water-based paints. And they called every single art store in Delhi and nobody had the paints. And then they said, okay, we can get them from Bombay. We can get it. I said, we'll pay anything to get it. Just put it on a flight and FedEx it. And they said, okay, we'll have it by tomorrow. So Nita and I, we didn't bring anything with us, for sleeping anyways, she had a friend or something. We stayed at her friend's house. So the next day came and we're waiting and we're calling the art shop, waiting. And they didn't come. So Shamrani Didi said, Anita needs to come back to Govardhan. Vasanti, you wait in Delhi, because Anita was a better artist than I, and she was painting all the gopis' hair black. She was going from painting to painting and painting their hair. So the next day came and I stayed overnight and I was miserable, like here alone in Delhi. We were really young at that time. I mean, so anyways, the next day came and um, and I was like waiting and waiting and it wasn't coming. Finally, our printer that prints our Gurudev's books, he's a very dear friend and a very amazing person. I called him and I was crying and told him what happened. And then he arranged it. He arranged that the paintings came. And by the time the paints came, it was really late. And so his wife said, please come home to our house and stay with us. It's too late to go to Govardhan right now. But I knew the artist wanted the paints and it was a marathon. It was like this huge seva. I didn't want to be in Delhi. I immediately, when I left Govardhan, I felt just really not well. So I said, no, it's okay. And so I just made this prayer to Gurudev and I said, Gurudev, just please protect me. I know we shouldn't ask like that, but please protect me. So I took the bus back and I got to Mathura and it was already dark. And I get off the bus and I was surrounded by all these rickshaw-wallas and they were all like, Vrindavan, Govardhan, and charging me all kinds of ridiculous amounts of money. And I just stood there. With this prayer, like, I just know Gurudev is going to protect me. All of a sudden, this like little man, and he was wearing all black, like a black trench coat. It was so crazy. He came up to me and he was like, Govardhan? And I said, yes. He said, come. And he took me and he put me in his Jeep. And he had like his family with him. And he took me to the front door of the Govardhan Math for 10 rupees. It was just like, yeah, it was really mystical. And I came in and it was like 10 o'clock at night and all the artists were like, attacking me and grabbing all the paints and picking me up so happy. And Anita was like, you stupid idiot. Like, how could you come back to Govardhan so late? Because as those of you, most of you here are from India, this is Govardhan. There's dacoits and it's not safe. So somehow I was protected by Srila Gurudev. And then another amazing Govardhan miracle was that the night before the Parikrama party was coming, Didi was still painting Krishna on top of Govardhan, the Anakut painting, and the workers were taking down the scaffolding. So like there was a whole wall of scaffolding and it was coming down and she was still sitting up there painting, finishing Krishna. And I was joking, me and Anita had this joke that all the scaffolding will be down and she'll be holding on to the painting, the wall painting, still painting. So actually a few days before, Didi had sent me to Vrindavan to tell Gurudev, to ask Gurudev for a miracle. She said, go tell Gurudev that we need a miracle because the paintings aren't going to be done. And so I did it. And I told Gurudev that. And he put up his hand. He said, it will be done, or my blessing, something like that. So this was going on. The scaffolding was coming down. And I was taking pictures. At that time we had an old school camera. As I was taking pictures, all the workers wanted to see the picture. Cameras were so, there was no cell phones yet. So to see a camera, a nice modern camera, and to see the picture in the camera, the workers were getting so enthralled that they stopped taking down the scaffolding. And Dinabandhu Prabhu was there and he started doing a kirtan. And we were like, all the devotees and all the workers, we were doing kirtan. Didi finished Krishna on top of Anakut, and then she came down. And the workers were dancing, they were in bliss. They even forgot to take down the rest of the scaffolding. And in the morning, they finished it. And then Gurudev came, and we took this tour with Gurudev, and Gurudev was so, so happy. So much of it wasn't done, but it looked done from down below. But like some of the gopis had no eyes, and there was so much to be done. Gurudev was so happy. And he, with Balaram on the Das Avatar on the back, he said Balaram should be more carefree. He didn't look carefree enough. And then the next day, Shamrati said, okay, I'll immediately fix it. So she immediately fixed Balaram's look. And then the next day, Gurudev came out and he said, I never come out of my room at this time, but I came to see Lord Balaram. And then he looked and he said, yes, now he is carefree. It was really, really sweet. Then that summer we went on his tour with him. And then some of the artists stayed and continued painting. And the next winter we stayed in Govardhan to continue painting. So as we were painting, we were also that time working on the Shiva Tattva book. And like I said earlier, the Malaysians told me that they would fund it. So I was writing them and they weren't replying. So Sharmarani Didi told me, I don't think we're going to be able to print because we don't have the money. So I was going every day to Chakeshwar Mahadev. It was just a 15-minute walk from Armat. And I was going to Chakeshwar every day and praying for them, asking him, Chakeshwar, to please inspire the Malaysians to reply to me and tell me that they're going to not go back on their word. They had promised to fund this book. So after like a week of praying to Chakeshwar, I came back one day and I checked my email. There was a letter from Brajanath Prabhu, and he asked, how is the Shiva Taka book going? And if we need any funds, please let them know. And it was like so magical. I mean, I know I didn't even ask, we didn't tell them. We didn't want to ask Gurudev for money. I mean, Gurudev always paid for books, no matter what. If we would come to him, I remember the morning walk book, we would say, oh, Gurudev, we need $7,000 for this printing. And then he would just tell Brajanath Prabhu, okay, go get it for them. And he would just hand us wads of cash. But we didn't want to ask for the money for Shiva Tapa because we had this promise from the Malaysians, and it would be like our offering, that we collected. Anyways, the Malaysians did pull through in the end, and they did pay for it, the first printing. So we went to the printer. When the book was done, we went to the printer. We were leaving, we had a week, or like we had a week to do all the work at the printer. And then Sharmarani Didi and I were going to meet Gurudev in Hawaii for his Vyasa Puja. So the printer was closed. I forget, maybe it was the Independence Day. It was a holiday that everything is required to be closed in India. So our printer locked us in, so no one would know we were there, because Sharmarani hadn't finished proofreading the whole book. And so she proofread, and it was freezing. It was winter, it was cold, and it was three of us, me, Jaishree, and Vasanti Prabhu. And me and Jaishree, we were sleeping. Sharmarani spent like 18 straight hours proofreading the whole book in the printer's office. Me and Jaishree and Vasanti, we were sleeping on these freezing cold like metal chairs. And then I remember one night, it was in InDesign, so she didn't know how to use InDesign. And one night it was like 1 a.m, and she was like, help, I need help. I messed something up. And Vasant was a designer. He could not wake up. And then she's like, Vasanti, I need help. Jaishree, I need help. And we were like, so tired. And then she's like, Vasanti or Jaishree, I promise if one of you wake up and help me, I promise you, Gurudev and Prabhupada will give you so much mercy. So I jumped up and I helped her. And anyway, so we finished the book in the printer's office, and then Sharmarani and I flew to Hawaii for Vyasa Puja. And our printer said he would FedEx the book as soon as it was done. So we had like 3 advanced copies, and it was Vyasa Puja day. And Gurudev was coming out of his room to go to the class at like 5 in the evening. And right as Gurudev was coming out of his room, the FedEx truck pulled up. And it was like divine timing. And so we grabbed it and we opened it and we gave it to Gurudev. And we said, Gurudev, the Shiva Tapa book's come. We gave it to him. And Gurudev took the book and he put it to his head and he said, yes, Shiva Tattva has come. So it was really, that was really a special moment. And another book a couple other books that we got to work on. In 2005, I believe it was, Gurudev was talking about on Jiva Tattva, and he was talking about how the Jiva doesn't fall from Goloka Vrindavan. And so he asked Sharmarani, he said, I want you to make a book with my lectures about this topic. And at the same time, he also had asked for Gopi Geet, I believe, or Gauravani. Yeah, Gopi Geet. But he ordered the Jiva Tapa book first. So we chose for some reason we chose to do Gopi Geet first. So working on Gopi Geet. And then in 2007, I believe it was, at the Hawaii Festival, Gurudev didn't come to the festival. He was sick. And so we had the book ready to give to him. No, I'm sorry. We didn't have the book ready to give to him. We were working on it. So Gurudev didn't come to that festival. And after the festival, we went to visit him. And Sharmarani said, Gurudev, we were thinking that since Gopi Geet is so beautiful, we were thinking it'd be nice to have a CD in it. And if you could sing it. And Gurudev said, me sing it. There's so many better singers in the Mat, Rasananda Prabhu or Muni Maharaj, they can sing it. And Sharmarani said, but Gurudev, we want it to be sung by a gopi. And you're the only gopi that we know. And then Maharaja got really excited. He was like, yes, 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 he'll do it. So Gurudev sang the, later, Brajanath Prabhu recorded him singing the Gopi Geet. So that in the first edition, that CD was put in the back. So we finished Gopi Geet. We offered it to him, I believe, the next year, also in Hawaii. And then we were still working on Journey of the Soul during this time. And it was so complicated because there were so many darshan, it's such a complicated topic. And so Gurudev ordered it in 2005. And in 2009, was it 9 or 10? I think it was 2010, actually. We were in South Africa. And we were in a darshan. And Shamrani Didi said, Gurudev, I have one more question for you on for the Journey of the Soul book, for the Jivapataka book. And he said, what? It is not printed yet? And she said, no, Gurudev, almost. And he went, oh my God. That's what he said. We were like really stunned by that. And we came back and we jammed on that and printed immediately. So, yeah, he was really happy with that. His order to Shamrani Didi was to put all of his English lectures in books. So my very first tour, I got to help a little bit with, in 2002, I got to help a little bit with The Origin of Rath Yatra, and can't remember the other book. But we also worked on, I also was fortunate to work on the Guru books, my Guru, what is it? My Priyabandhu, Shiksha Guru, Priyabandhu, and The Lasting Relation. And Gurudev was so pleased with these books. Actually, one time he asked me in Delhi if I had the book, my Shiksha Guru Priyabandhu. And I was so stupid. I thought he meant on my computer. I was like, oh yeah, I can open it on my computer. And he was like, he wanted the tangible book. And so actually we've been out of print of Their Lasting Relation for like a couple of years now in India. And I kind of feel like really badly that I didn't, I'm not fulfilling this order of Gurudev's, because he had asked, he told me, when I told him we didn't have it, he said, oh, you should bring from America. And it's going to be reprinted in September. So I'm very happy about that. But, and we were in South Africa also, and we got, the first time Gurudev was in South Africa, so many ISKCON, there was some devotees went prior to Gurudev's arrival and did some preaching. And we got a donation to print in South Africa, like 500 of each of those books to just distribute freely, because so many ISKCON devotees were coming. So that was really phenomenal. Also, when we printed Way of Love and Secrets of the Undiscovered Self, these were the first introductory books of Gurudev's. And after we printed Way of Love, we went to his house straight from the printer. He was staying in the Somnath at the Prabhu at the time. And so we immediately went to his house. It was like 7 in the morning. And he was still in his bed underneath a mosquito tent. It was so sweet. And we gave to Gurudev. We said, Gurudev, here's these 2 books, introductory books. And so Gurudev was looking through the Way of Love, and there's subtitles there. Like, and one of the subtitles is we are one family, and the next subtitle is Unity and Diversity. And Gurudev it was so adorable. He said, he saw Unity and Diversity. He said, I said this. We were like, yeah, Gurudev, this is your book. So it's just so phenomenal, so phenomenal to be on the GVP, and part of the Gaudiya Vedanta publications, part of the printing side, and to get to work on the books and to see the whole process from start to finish, from the order to how much work it takes. People say sometimes, so I hear, some criticisms, oh, GVP is so slow to produce books, but I mean, it is like, Jivapataka is such a small book, right? It's only 4 lectures. You would think it could have come out. When we started to edit it, there was 3 stories in one that Gurudev, Shamrani calls it translanguage. Gurudev combined like Salva and like the Bhavatam stories where there's airplanes involved, and we put it out on Harikatha like that. And then once she started editing, she saw that actually this is 3 different stories. It's not one story. We told Gurudev, and he said, oh, just follow the Bhagavatam, make it like the Bhagavatam. So it takes so much work. And so I was thinking something else about the printing side. Oh, when this Gurudeva taught my class, when someone said that we don't need Diksha, then Gurudev in class said, I challenge anyone to talk to me about this. And then when he called Shamrani Didi to her room, he said, changed that word challenge to invite. I invite anyone. So sometimes people, will just, because we've experienced this, the Hindi team and the English team, that they say, oh, why do they change Gurudev's words or what, without coming and sincerely inquiring from us, but there's been hundreds of darshans that the English team, especially Vasanti Didi and Sharmani Didi, and then the Hindi team with, Madhav Priya Prabhu and Sananti Maharaja, at that time he was Krishna Kripa when he was working on books, and Amal Krishna Prabhu, they have these darshans with Gurudev, and Gurudev changes things after the fact. So anyways, so to get to be on the publishing side is incredible. And then to get to be on the distribution side, as Harikatha had mentioned at the beginning, it's just something about like, I love touching the books. I don't know if Shiva Krishna Mai are on or not, but they always say that like so we have a book sponsorship program. That's one of the programs that actually Sharmani started it. She one time, like 2002 or 3, she got a donation of a couple $100 from somebody, and she said, "What should we do with this money? Like, should we just?" We would give all of our money to Gurudev, but for some reason she was like, "Oh, what should we do with this?" Like, and I said, "I don't know." And she said, "Let's sponsor books and go around like have a Harinam in Vrindavan and get." Oh, it's for Radhastami. There was going to be a Harinam. She said, "Let's sponsor books for the Harinam and just give them out." So that was the start of the sponsorship program. And then it developed, it was me and Anita and Sharmani Didi, of course, under her guidance. And now it's gotten so big and so phenomenal. And Krishnamai and Shivananda, they house the books. They're in their garage in LA. They're the warehouse. And they know, like, if they can't find me, I'm probably in the garage, because I just love being in there. I just love looking at the books and touching the books. And even here in Vrindavan, I send out books. I just love something about, every box, let's say a box of Way of Love, there's 200 in a box. There's somebody's name on each book, So some soul, some suffering jiva is just waiting to get their life altered. And now when the pandemic started, Shivananda had a great, because we go to a lot of festivals, a lot of yoga festivals and kirtan festivals, just different types of festivals, vegan festivals and color festivals. And so, but when the pandemic started, there was no more festivals, and we had just gotten a shipment, thousands and thousands of books. And we're like, oh my gosh, Gurudev would say no cold storage. So Shivananda actually very brilliantly said, why don't we do, because our motto is any amount of books for any donation. So Shivananda Prabhu said, why don't we do that online? Any amount of books for any donation. So we did that. And it was amazing. It was phenomenal. I really feel like book distribution has gone up so much also. And because we got so many orders from devotees who want to read certain books that they didn't have. And also devotees started distributing. Seeing the pandemic, people are suffering. And now there's these free little libraries. And so yeah, we're actually on our second shipment in 1 year. I usually do one shipment that would last 2 years. And this year, Krishnamai and Shivananda did the Badger Festival for the first time, because Radha Dasi was not in America. So we're going to have our second big US shipment in 1 year. So it's a really phenomenal program, actually, because the book sponsorship program also sponsors the books. Devotees give donations. A lot of devotees, there's two ways of funding. Devotees give donations for us to distribute books. And also as some people will give more, someone gave me $100 for a Prem Sampu that cost me but they love the program. So they'll just give more than what their books are worth. And then at festivals or some people will give take one of everything and give $5. So it all balances out. But the people who give donations also has sponsored that we have books, sets of Gurudev's books in over 600 libraries and prison libraries. And we have sometimes one devotee likes to get books in women's shelters. And we did a couple rehab centers. So wherever books can go, anyone's inspired to put books, we'll sponsor those books. So that's a really, really phenomenal program. And Gurudev was really, really pleased. Actually, in 2009, I believe it was, Anita did the first proper report of how many books went out, how much money came, how much it cost, how much money came in. And Gurudev was so pleased with it that actually he patted her on the head and thanked her. And she was so happy because she said, Vasanti would always get the head pats. And Anita is such a non-envious person. I mean, she's so phenomenal. She was like, finally, I got my head pat. So that was really incredible. I wanted actually to touch on, I told about the Govardhan paintings, but I wanted to share a little bit about the other paintings that Sharmani
Can
Didi.
before you do that,
Yes.
can you just tell us a little bit, because I feel like this is so inspiring for people that maybe don't do book distribution to start. So
Yeah.
maybe you can tell us a little bit about the book, the Soul of Book
Oh,
Distribution,
yes.
and also like if say I like how can I start book distribution if I haven't ever done it before?
Okay, great. Yeah. Um, well, actually, I want to also tell you that when we were living in Govardhan, working on those paintings, we would write to Gurudev, and Gurudev told us that Govardhan is so crowded from Ekadasi to Purni. He said during that time, the girls and boys in the mat should go and distribute books during that time. So that was really, I think that was one of my first direct orders to distribute books, was in that Govardhan time. I, yeah, so the solo books, Sharmani, she's so, we would hear Gurudev stress and stress. I mean, we were on every tour, every Harikatha festival with Gurudev, and he would always say to distribute his books, he would always say, I don't want my books in cold storage. I want, that the book table that is here should be emptied. Everybody should take, as Haripri said in the beginning, everybody should take, he said, if everybody takes 10 books, then the book table will be just gone. If everyone distributes one book a week, and that's 4 weeks in a year and a month, like this, he said, so many books would go. So we were in the Europe Fest, I don't know if it was Germany or Holland one time, and Gurudev was talking about Srila Prabhupada and how Sharmani Didi and Vrindavan Vilasini Didi and so many of these devotees, senior Prabhupada disciples, he said they were like teenagers. At the time, they would go everywhere to seaports and airports and bus stations, and they were fearless and bold, and they would distribute. So Gurudev said one time, he said, they did for Prabhupada, why not for me? And then another time he said, he said, I want you all to distribute. He said, if you don't distribute my books, I will think you are not pure devotees, pure disciples. So Gurudev said all these things. And so we got so inspired that we collected everything he had said on tour. We put it into a book, which became the Soul of Book Distribution. And also some really nice, Gurudev would also say about distributing books to also read the book and understand what's in the book and then distribute it. So we included also in Soul of Book Distribution different moods to have while distributing. There's a story about the rag. It's called rag. We call it rags. Just different stories we kept in there about how to have a proper mood while distributing. Because Gurudev really stressed, and I think that's what's something so special is that it's not just a money-making endeavor, but Gurudev also said, you can make money distributing books and use that money. He was telling the Ganga Matas or someone, use that money then to come be in the Dham with me or to come on tour, to travel or so to read the books, understand what's in the book, distribute the book. So so Sharmani says, if you read Soul Book Distribution and you don't feel badly that you're not distributing books, you will after you read the book. And
It happened to me.
Pardon?
It happened to me.
Oh yeah, and now look at you in such influence, so much. Besides having the warehouse for Bhakti Store, so she did the same thing with the Harmony book. She would hear Gurudev over and over and over at every festival saying, not to quarrel, not to criticize, and then so many people would come to her with complaints about this devotee or that devotee. So she was like, finally, like, I'm just going to put it all in a book, and if anyone comes to me complaining about any other devotee, I don't want to hear it. Sharmani is so strict with criticism. I mean, I say one little thing, and to me, it didn't seem like a criticism. I get in so much trouble. So she put everything in the Harmony book, and she said, she'll tell people, go read this, and then come back to me. So with the sponsorship program, it's also really nice because we'll give people a kickstart, like different brahmacharis or different temples. We'll give them a kickstart of books, like a box or two of books. And then we'll say, any Lakshmi that you get from book distribution, then use that to continue to buy books. So yeah, we never say no to anybody. I mean, sponsorship is just such a as Krishnamurti, I think, named it, or maybe Lamita. Anyways, we all call it anxiety-free distribution. It's just to, flood the world. The Gurudev said that his books, he wrote a letter to Kanayalal, Germany, that my books will be my legacy. So to flood the world with Gurudev's nectar. And we were in the Fiji airport once, and Sharmarnidhi said to Gurudev, "Oh, Gurudev, some people say that your books are so high, that people won't understand them." And Gurudev said, "All for all." And so she said, "What do you mean? You mean all books for everyone?" He said, "Yes, all my books for all people." And we see this. We see those of us who distribute books. I know Sachin's experiencing this, and Krishnamai and Shiva, and so many people that their first book is Prem Samput or Gopi Geet, or it's a whole, people are evolved. It's like, even, Gurudev would say, if Srila Prabhupada was physically here, he would continue, this is what he would be speaking. He wouldn't still be speaking, "You're not this body, you're not this body." Even though I know for myself, I think I'm the body. So I need to hear I'm not this body. But, to give these other sweet books. So, yeah, distribution ki jai. I'll just tell a few more sweet things about Sharmarni's paintings, because getting to, as Hari Priya spoke so beautifully after Sharmarni spoke about, even the few months you got to have that glimpse into the Kunj Kirtan world, watching Sharmarni paint is like, sometimes I had a really hard time balancing, like being the mother and wanting her to go to bed and not get sick, and then her absorption in the painting. She'll say, "I don't realize anything. I'm a paintbrush, da da da." But you can't paint like that and not see it. Like, it's not possible. So I remember one night we were living here in Gopinath Bhavan, and she was painting Radha alone. And I left her room at like 10 o'clock at night, and she was, put her to bed, and it was all like she was going to bed. And the painting behind Radha alone had lotuses. It was water with lotuses and like lily pads. And I came back the next morning. I said goodnight. I came back the next morning, like 8 in the morning. All the lotuses and lily pads were gone. And now the painting became waves. And my first thought was like, when did you do that? She's not supposed to stay up all night because she would get sick. So she had a realization that she's laying in bed that the nice lotuses and lily pads didn't match Radharani's mood. Radharani's feeling turbulent. She's in distress. She's in separation. She's thinking, without Krishna, what's the purpose of my life? And she's like, so there had to be waves behind her, turbulent waves to match her mood. So she took out all the lotuses and all the lilies and put in their waves of Radha actually. So that was really incredible. Sharmarni could just sit for 12, 15 hours straight and paint. Like, I would bring water or bring a drink, put it next to her. I'm like, "Here's your water." I'd come back hours later. She hadn't even touched it. She would not remember her body at all. I had to physically pick up the cup, put it to her mouth. So when we were painting, I'm part of it. I don't paint at all. I just say we, because I arrange my seva. My painting seva was to arrange the paintbrushes and the paints and the canvases, and it's awesome. But as she was painting, when she was painting this Bhagavat Arkam Richi Mala, it's Sri Damodar is having, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is having a vision of Sri Damodar, and Sri Damodar is telling him the most important verses of the Bhagavatam, and to put these verses in a book, which became Bhagavat Arkam Richi Mala. So every time she was painting in Govardhan, and every time someone came into the room, they'd be like, "Oh, Mahaprabhu." And she's like, "No, it's not Mahaprabhu, it's Sri Damodar." So then she got, like, after the fifth person said that, she was so annoyed. So she went to Gurudev and she said, "Gurudev, everyone thinks this is Mahaprabhu. So how can I make him look like Sri Damodar?" So Gurudev said, "Just make him look like Sri Damodar." And she said, "But how? I don't know how." She said, "You're seeing Sri Damodar. Can't you tell me what you see?" And then Gurudev said, "Oh, make him with some stubble." So she did that. And then he became Sri Damodar. But then Gurudev said, "But I'm not happy with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He doesn't look like Bhaktivinoda." And he said, "Why don't you follow the picture that's on the altar?" So Shamrani showed him like 3 times, and Gurudev wasn't pleased. And then finally, when she had him just right, Gurudev was so happy. He said, yes, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And when Gurudev, not that I can understand, obviously, anything that Mahabhagavad says, but I felt like when Gurudev said, this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I felt like Gurudev stalled him, you know. It was, really, Gurudev's hands-on with the paintings was just so incredible. When Shamrani, was it Manani Radha? Or Radha? Yeah, Manani Radha, when we brought the final Manani Radha, and Gurudev looked at it, he said, even Radharani's, you know, there was no like dimple in her elbow. I mean, just such detail. So, and actually when he saw Manani Radha, he said, what have you done? And she got really scared, and she was like, I don't know, Gurudev. And he said, we were in his room in Mathura, he said, it is better than this. And he pointed up and he had the picture of Sevakunj there. And that's what he said. So yeah, Gurudev is hands-on with the painting. When he ordered the Gita Govinda line drawings, he gave her all these like these prints from the Bengali version of Gita Govinda. Certain artist, I can't remember his name, but he said to follow like this, but make them more beautiful. So he would, she would show them to him and show them to him. And one time we were in the LA temple. It was before they had the big rose temple. There was a smaller temple, and we were in his room and we showed it to him. And then Gurudev said, it's very beautiful, American beautiful. And he pointed to me and he said, like her. He said, but it should be Indian beautiful. So he would really, Gurudev would mess with Shamrani all the time. He would say, when she was painting Damodarastakam, yeah, for the cover of his Hindi Damodarastakam book, he said, the book is done. They're only waiting for you in the painting. When are you going to finish? After I die? And so then she would get so like riled up. And then she would ask Madhava Prabhu, so the book is really going to print tomorrow? Because Gurudev's telling me you're going to print. And Madhava Prabhu said, no way. He's like, Didi, we have so much work. It's going to be like another 2 or 3 weeks. But Gurudev would always do this to her. He would just get her so riled up with the painting. But he had to, because actually, as she says, I've heard her say probably a million times, life is short and art is long. And Gurudev knew that, and he had to, you know, kind of put a fire under her to finish, because, you know, so many of the paintings have layers and layers and layers, like Sevakunj, there's so many different Krishnas underneath the Krishna that we see. Same with Kunj Kirtan. And so yeah, and as also Haripriya so beautifully said about one time seeing Shamrani speaking to Kunj Kirtan, I had that experience with Damodarastakam painting. You know, she was like trying to get the veil right, and she would just talk to Mother Yashoda. I mean, just so amazing. She would just like beg her and, you know, ask her, please, like, please, you come on to the canvas, how you're supposed to be on the canvas. So it's just her painting is just so phenomenal. One time we were in the LA temple, also the old temple that they had, and she was painting Jai Shri. And I remember, again, having her gone to bed, and then I woke up in the middle of the night and to go to the bathroom, there's a light on in the kitchen. So I went to the kitchen to see, like, and I see her there painting. I was like, my first was like, what are you doing? It's midnight. And she's like, come sit next to me. So I come sit next to her. She's like, I'm doing what all the scriptures talk about. I'm painting Krishna's lotus feet. And I was just like, oh my God, how can I tell her to go to bed? You know, there's definitely, like, I really learned a lot, actually, still learning, you know, this, even like with her diet, and, you know, like, you can't always be strict. Like there's like sometimes she's not supposed to have, you know, white sugar or certain things, but time to time, or fried things, but time to time, you know, you can't always be strict in the diet. So same with her painting and her, you know, staying up all night. It's such a transcendental, otherworldly, I can't even, you know, understand it or touch it in millions of lives. So, and just one time we were on a plane and there was all this turbulence, and she was praying to Radharani about it because she was really scared. So I just locked my arm in hers, and I was like, oh, she said, if this plane crashes, please, Radharani, when I open my eyes, let me just be with you. So I just put my arm in her arm, and I said, and make that for me too. You know, by her strength, that'd be a PS from me. So yeah, Yeah, it's just such a phenomenal thing to witness. Speaking also back to the book distribution subject, in 2010, when Gurudev started his Sikh Leela and was in the Delhi Mat in Delhi, the Delhi Mat in Delhi, in the Mat in Delhi, I had planned for like a year prior to that. I had heard that the Commonwealth Games was going to be in Delhi. The Commonwealth Games is like the Olympics, you know. I mean, Delhi. That's why they built the metro. That's why they gave everyone leave from work to go out of Delhi. So so people had it wouldn't be so crowded because they built so many more hotels. I mean, it was huge. I knew it was going to be huge. So I rallied up a team, and we got to stay in the Delhi Mat during that time. They had turned Gurudev's room into like a hospital room, so he wouldn't have to be in the hospital. And we were going out the first day we had tried and so many things. Finally, we realized that the best time to be out was from 5 to 10 in the evening, or even later, 5 to 11, especially like at cricket and all these like really popular matches. So there was this one day where everyone thought Gurudev was going to leave this day. Like he wasn't eating, he hadn't done anything. Like it was really intense. There was bhajans outside his door. So I was chatting with, don't know, I couldn't get a hold of Shamrani Didi, but I was thinking, should we go out or not? Because people were freaking out in the Mat. And I got a hold of Vasanti Didi, who was also one of the best book distributors of her time. Huge book distributor back in the 70s. And I told her, I said, what was going on? And I said, and we're here for the Commonwealth Games. Like, what should we do? And she said, do your service. And I learned so much from her on that statement. So we went out, and that night it was like India beat Pakistan. So I think it's mostly Indians on this Zoom. I know, like India beating Pakistan was like, I mean, it was huge. And so we were and what was amazing was there was ISKCON devotees they were distributing. And one of the first devotees I ever met in the LA ISKCON temple, his name is Bhakta-Avatar. And he is just such a phenomenal devotee. Just the sound of a cartel, and he starts dancing. And he's just constantly dancing. He would just twirl and twirl and twirl as kirtan is going on nonstop. He was there. And so he said, I heard about your Gurudev. Let's do kirtan for him all together. We all did kirtan, and these boys, he had a bunch of boys with him. They started distributing Gurudev's books. They're like, oh, give us stacks. And so and as everyone came out of the auditorium, and they were like, yeah, India, go India, India won. And they were like, they would see us with tilak, and they would all take books and just throw money at us, and we're like, thank you for representing our country. And I mean, they were like so proud of us for being there. And then Bhakta Avatar said, can I come and have darshan? And I said, yeah, just come. And he was like this most austere. He just came and he slept on the balcony. We would get back and we would do kirtan on the metro the whole way back to the Mat. And the whole metro would be singing. I mean, like 4 cars down, huge kirtans. And we'd get back at like midnight. And then we get up at 4 for Mangal Arati. And that was for 1 week straight. It was so magical. So then obviously Gurudev didn't disappear during that time. And after the whole Commonwealth Games was over, we had a huge bag full of rupees. And rupees are kind of dirty sometimes and kind of curled up. And so we had just this huge, I didn't even straighten them out or put them, Krishna Maya is on. If she was here, she would have organized them all, because she knows how much Gurudev liked to organize money and all the tens, all facing the right way. But I asked Rajnath Prabhu if we could give the money directly to Gurudev. They weren't letting anyone in his room. Only they would open the curtain for us to see him and then close it. So we were at Rajnath Prabhu said, let me see. So then they would bring also Gurudev out onto the balcony, and we'd be down in the driveway, and we'd get to see him. He would wave and stuff. So we were all at the door. It was like a team of 8 of us, and we were at the door of his darshan room. And Rajnath Prabhu said, Vasanti, if you want to give the money, give it now, and only you can come in. And at that time, my heart kind of dropped, because I was like, and I told him, I said, but Rajnath Prabhu, everyone here did so much. We were sleeping like 3-4 hours a night, going out late. They all distributed so much. And And Brajnath Prabhu said, you know, we could have kept Gurudev in the hospital, but we wanted him to be in his own temple. So we made it so everyone could sing outside his room and see him when the curtains open. He said, so it's now or never. So I had to, you know, I did it. So I went into Gurudev was on the balcony at the time though, so everyone below could actually see. So I said, Gurudev, we just finished the Commonwealth Games. It was like, you know, it's like the Olympics, and this is all the donations. And I gave it to Gurudev, and then Gurudev put his hand on top of the money. He put his hand in the bag and he tapped it 3 times. And I just got this, you know, like this surge, and I felt that he was blessing all these sincere souls who donated from their heart, you know. And that was my last, that was my last in the room darshan, I think. No, I had one more darshan with him. Actually, when the morning walk book, what time is it? Can I have 5 more minutes? I'll tell the story of the morning walk book.
Yeah, go on. No
Okay.
worries.
Because that's a huge book, actually. And and that was my last darshan. Gurudev was giving him, well, in the room when he came out in Govardhan. In 2008, we were in Odessa, and Gurudev asked a certain sannyasi that he said, I put so much into my walks, how will you repay me? I want that you do a book of all of my walks. So I really wanted to help that sannyasi, because I have this brain for like numbers and dates somehow. And I knew I would do we would do the Harikatha. So I was on the tour, but then I also had the list of every night Gurudev spoke and whether it was a walk that day or a darshan that day. So I had it all already like in my computer and in my computer in my head. So I asked Srila, can I please help with this walk book? And Didi said, no, don't help him. Let's see what he does. And a year went by and he didn't do anything. And then the next year we were in Italy and Gurudev said, I want you now. He said, Maharaj didn't do anything for the walk book. I want you to do it now. And so I was so happy that we got the order, because I really wanted to work on that book. So we were in Brazil in 2010, and I was alone with Gurudev in the room. I had to bring him something that someone sent with me from the previous place, some money or something. And I went to his room and brushed off and said, yeah, just go in and give it to him. So I went in and I said, Gurudev, so I was the first editor. I would hear, after they were transcribed by someone else, I would hear the walk and I would go over the first layer. And it was, you feel like you're on the walk with him. And so I told Gurudev, I said, Gurudev, I know that the disciple can never thank the Guru. I mean, really, how can we, we're so indebted. How can we ever thank Shri Guru for saving our lives? I said, but I don't know any other words. So I just want to thank you for allowing me to work on your walk books. I feel like I'm there with you. And then it was so cute. Gurudev got this like boyish smile and he said, yes, I have told so many important things in my walks, especially in Badger. So that was really working on his walk books. So the first one that came out was 2008. And it also we finished the printing of that when he was in Delhi, in the Delhi Mott, 2010. So we got to bring it into his room, and he would, Manapriya Prabhu was there and holding it. We were flipping through and showing him the chapter pages of all the places where he was. And yeah, that was really phenomenal. And then, of course, after that, we did 4 more years, 2007, 9, and 10. So the last place Gurudev went, actually also one more phenomenal thing was in 2010, we were in Russia. And it was so hot. It was like India hot. It was so intense that forest fires were popping up everywhere. And Sripad Nimi Maharaj called Gurudev in India and said, Gurudev, we don't think it's a good idea for you to come. It's so hot and there's fires. And Gurudev said, no, I am coming. And so I remember like me and Govinda Priya was traveling with us at that time. All we could do all day was, all we kept saying was, I'm so hot, I'm so hot, it's so hot. We were having like 3 ice creams a day and we were just like so hot. And Gurudev came and they had set up this like yurt or something. And Gurudev came, his evening program was always at like 5. And he came in and it was so hot in there. And he turns to Brajnath Prabhu and he said, who brought me here? And he got up and he walked out. And we were all crying. Everyone was crying. And then he said, then we got the notice, Gurudev will come at 5:30 in the morning for class. He won't come in the evening. It was too hot. So then on the last day there was initiation, and there was over 100, 100 Russian initiates. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is why Gurudev came, just for them in this heat. And it was really such a beautiful sight to see. So yeah, I'm like what's his name? King Vic, there's a king, one king, Vikramitya, and there was one time a madman came and put a skull on the table and said, oh, this king had like 9 counselors. And this madman was like, oh, if your counselors are so smart, can they tell me if the person whose skull this is foolish or wise? And then 8 of them tried, and 8 of them were like, I have no idea. And then Kali, I think it was Kali Krishnadas. Anyways, the 9th counselor came, and he said, oh, and he took a the brooms, Indian brooms, what are they made of? Like coconut stick, like coconut.
Yeah, like a straw type.
Yeah, straw. Yeah, took the straw and he put it in the ear of the skull, and it came out the other ear. He said, oh, this person was foolish. And they're like, how did you know that? He said, because it went in one ear and out the other. But if it went in one ear and would have gone down to the heart, then we would have known that he was wise. So I'm like that skull where it went in one ear and out the other. But somehow I feel like am still in the ICU, and Gurudev allowed me to travel on tour with him for 8 years. And I got to witness so many beautiful, beautiful leelas, and somehow use my education. Everything can be dovetailed in Krishna service. So got to work on the books and my social work degree. I get to go into prison and to see everyone as a suffering jiva. I know me and Shivananda's come in as well. And he would always say, and I know we feel this way, that the person we're talking to now is not the same person that committed the crime, and so I feel like when we go in and when the kirtans and that we do in prison and the prayers, because like once that, even though we're only in there for 2 hours, once that bar closes behind you and you hear the lock, I mean, it's like you're in prison. I mean, it's it's pretty intense. I had the most intense experience with Shivananda and Rasika in LA, where all the gang members are. The chaplain's walking us to the room, and everyone is sitting down. He's like, uh-oh. When they sit down, it means there was a fight, and they get taser. What's it called? Sprayed. Say that they get sprayed. Yeah, and then we see this guy in handcuffs, bring him out. He's all bloody, and they just put us in a room with no guards or anything. And we're like in this room, and Rasika starts leading the Shingade prayers. And
wow,
it's but I feel like as Nityananda Prabhu instructed to go to the most fallen and those who are ignored by society. Remember Gurudev one time in a lecture said, Nityananda Prabhu's ordered, go to those who are ignored by society. And somehow this program just came to me. I mean, I didn't choose this population. And when I was a social worker before, I worked with disabled people, and they were so sweet and fun, and like give me hugs. And I mean, of course, there was a lot of crises, but so I didn't ask for this prison program. It just came. People requesting books, and I feel like, okay, if Gurudev's going, his Vani is going behind the bars, then we as his representatives can go. So somehow my degree is it's when the chaplain's here, I have an MSW. Anything can be used in Seva, So somehow, again, very, very fortunate that I had all these years with Gurudev, and unfortunate that I don't, know Siddhanta as well as I feel I should, especially being with Shamranidhi, who's like, the Siddhantic, Gurudev would always have her write papers. Anything that we would hear that was off, Gurudev would say, write something. Even one time she was writing a paper, can't remember, someone criticized Gurudev for Gita Govinda, I remember. And she made a whole website. It became Unconventional Teachers. She made a whole website. Instead of just writing a paper, she's like, let's make a website. Again, sleepless nights in your in-laws' house. Actually, Haripriya, I was sleeping in there. I was sleeping there was a pool table, and I was sleeping by the pool table at 1 a.m. while she's on the phone with the web designer. I was like, did it really have to be a website? Wasn't a paper good enough? So, but she takes everything to next level.
Her book is a literary masterpiece.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I forgot to mention when she was on, and I like there's so many things. But then when like I started reading it, I was like, what is this? This is amazing. Like this
Yeah.
is high level of English and her vocab. I have to like my thesaurus is out when I read her book. I have to like look up all the words. So it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Really amazing.
I know you're like wrapping up, but can you please tell us the pastime of how you got your father to meet Gurudev?
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah, I didn't even talk about my father or my mother or my grandmother. They're all three really phenomenal stories. My father, no, really? Like all the details, the inheritance and everything?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Now I'm
What's
thinking,
the
why are we
story?
why are we good friends? You know all my stuff. Yeah. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yes, my father had very wealthy parents, and their wills were split into two different separate wills. And the will was that he would get it in increments, and then whatever would be left over after he passed away would come to my sister and I. But he wanted the whole sum at one time because to invest it or whatever. So he asked me if I would sign this paper to give him that inheritance all in one go. So I was chanting and I was meditating on it, and it came to me like, yes, let me sign this paper. Because actually, that was my whole thing with them as kids, as a kid. It was always, we did this for you, we did that for you. I said, let me just, and Gurudev made it very clear to me, actually. One time, my father sent me $200. I had needed dental work, and I asked my dad for money. It's the only time he ever gave me money. And I only needed $100, but he sent me 200. And I gave the other 100 to Gurudev. It was in Navadvip, actually. And I went to Gurudev's room and I said, Gurudev, my father sent me an extra $100. And Gurudev was upset. And he said, what? Why this money from your father? I'm your father. What do you need? I will give you and I will give you more. So he made it really clear, actually. Like that was way before that was like 2003 or four. Because I was on the tour, like was paying for everything. So, anyways, so that came to me, that experience, and I realized, yes, I don't need any of his money, and good that I do whatever he wants me to do. So I told my dad that Gurudev was in town in LA. So I said, okay, if you want to meet me to sign this paper, you have to meet me at this house. And I gave him the address to Gurudev's house. And I was kind of nervous, he hadn't seen me in devotional clothes yet. So Shiva was there. Shiva was Gurudev's guard at his door. And so Shiva talked to him. My dad's actually a really cool person. And they had met probably once or twice before. So she was, like I said at the beginning, our martial arts teacher. So I get there and I told Brajnal Prabhu, I said, Gurudev, my father's here. He wants me to sign some papers for his inheritance, but I told him to come here so he can meet Gurudev. So Brajnath went and told Gurudev about the inheritance. I didn't tell Gurudev. So then there was also a darshan for the LA devotees going on in the backyard because some management stuff with the temple. And so they're in the backyard doing kirtan, and my dad's sitting on the couch inside the house. And Gurudev comes out. Gurudev comes out and he immediately sits down next to me on the chair, like across from my father. And the first thing he said, Gurudev's so sweet, just so heart melting and charming and endearing. And he said, "Oh, we are lucky we are sharing her." And then Gurudev said, so my dad had these papers in his hand, and Gurudev said, after you leave this world, you can't take a penny with you. And he said, so, and after you die, where will you go? And my dad said, that's a good question. I'll have to think about that. And then Gurudev pointed to me and he said, she knows, you should learn from her. So it was really super sweet. And then at the end, my father said, I hope we can all become enlightened like you. She said that to
Wow.
Gurudev. And Gurudev, someone gave Gurudev Radharaman Prasad actually and gave some to my dad. So I signed the paper, went to the bank, had it notarized and everything. And the next day, Gurudev came up to me and he said, oh, you signed? And I said, yes, Gurudev. And he said, your father's happy? I said, yes. He said, very good. So Gurudev was pleased with that. And then my mother would never come because they didn't support, they said I'm in a cult, and like especially when I first came, like she'd be like, someone's making money. Like she had all these different, like ideas. And my grandmother came. The first time my grandmother came, the whole family told her not to go. And I told my grandmother and I were so close. So I said, if you don't come, I'll never speak to you again. So she came and I picked her up and brought her. It was such a sweet darshan. She was like a year older than Gurudev. I can't remember. Gurudev said, how old are you? I said, Gurudev, this is my grandmother. He said, oh, then she's my grandmother too. And he said, how old are you? And she said, 94. And he said, oh, I'm 93. So he said, when you're 94, I'll be 93. And when you're 95, I'll be, you'll always be a year ahead of me. And then Gurudev, then she came again in 2010. And Gurudev wasn't really seeing so many people. His health had started, slowing down. But he came up to my grandmother and he took her hand and he said, thank you. He said, thank you for coming. And then when I drove her home, she told me, she said, I can't believe someone so powerful remembered me. So beautiful. When she left this world, she actually just left, like in her room, no hospital, no tube, no not like, and I really attribute that to Gurudev's mercy. Actually, she had no problems. She was starting to get dementia, but like she was in her own home, in her own bed. So anyways, when my mother came, this is a really phenomenal story because I always had a very turbulent relationship with my mother. And when she came in 2010, I invited her every year and she never would come because she didn't support my lifestyle. So in 2010, she came and I was so nervous about it. And again, she had never seen me in tilak and, devotional clothes. And so I said, please come. This is my Gurudev, like Gurudev said, this is the last year he's coming to the West. And he really was like, more like at that time I knew this really, I felt like he said he's not coming and he's not coming. So I told her that. So she came and I was so nervous. And luckily, there was a couple other devotees there that helped because she came an hour before the darshan. So anyways, when Gurudev came out, Gurudev sat down and he said, oh, after so long, you're coming, your mother came. I've met your mother and your husband. And she said, you did? They didn't even tell her because she's like, everyone's kind of afraid of her. And I've always tried to be affectionate to her, but she's not really so affectionate. And somehow I was sitting on the ground and Gurudev was sitting in the chair. My mother was across and I felt so much love. Like, Gurudev would say, like Srimati always says, Gurudev emanates prema atoms. And one time Sri Vrinda asked Gurudev, when you're on the Vyasasan, like we're so, I can't even look at you in the eyes. What are you doing, Gurudev? And he said, I am shooting prema atoms at you. And, so I hear it, but then when my mom came, I felt this love. And I felt it coming from Gurudev to me. And I was like petting her leg and had my arm around her leg. I just felt so loving. And Gurudev said to her, she said to Gurudev, she said, Gurudev, I don't understand why my daughter, who has a master's degree and a normal citizen of America, I'm so embarrassed when she said that, would work for the religion. She said, I understand like every religion has their God, but to work for the religion, I don't agree with. And he said, this world is like a garden and we do so much to cultivate this garden. And when we leave this world, we can't take anything with us. He said, but she is working on the best garden. He said, and I have come to take her to the eternal garden. And he said, so don't worry about her. She is doing very good. And then my mom was like, okay. And then Gurudev said, even if you don't understand what I'm saying, something will come in your heart because you're hearing it from me. And it was really phenomenal. And then the next day I went to go see, I was leaving for Italy for with the tour. And so I went to go see them to say goodbye. And it was also my birthday, like close, it was June. And they gave me $200. They never, ever gave me, my dad gave me money once. This is the first time my mother ever gave me money in 10 years since I joined Gurudev. And because they always thought I would give it to Gurudev, which I would have, but they gave me $200, which is like, for them was nothing. But anyways, when I went to Italy the next day, or after a couple of days, I went to Gurudev's room. It was just me, Sulata, and Janaki, three of us. And I said, Gurudev, after meeting you, finally, after 10 years, my mother's given me some money. And I said, here, and I gave it to him. And then he said, actually, Chirani Maharaj was in the room. And he looks at Chirani Maharaj and he said, Vasanti's mother came to meet me. He said, I think she was somewhat impressed. It was so awesome. Gurudev was so nice. And she was, because after that, our relationship totally changed. Still we don't have anything in common or anything to say to each other, but she became so much sweeter. She even imported my first shipment that I did for sponsorship because of her business, she imported the books for me and they paid for half of it. It was like, and stored it for a little while until I was able to bring it, to Krishnamaya and Shivananda. So yeah, Gurudev is just, can I say, our beloved Holy Master who's saved my life and we saved all of our lives. So I think I'll end on that note. And just everyone who's listening, please pray for me to continue my seva with proper mood. Sometimes I'm so grumpy, and Didi puts me in line, but yeah, just I feel so fortunate to be able to be in contact with so many devotees around the world and to be an object of their affection and mercy, and staying in their homes and them cooking the best meals and just being, anything that goes wrong with any of our health. There's so many devotees are just so loving and kind and truly our real family. So yeah.
Wow, thank you, Vasanti Didi. My gosh, that was such a like treat for my ears. It was so
Oh,
amazing. And really just, I know I'm speaking for everyone, just took me back and to Gurudev. It felt like I was going through all those things with you, and so nice. Thanks for sharing so much. And so generally, we just summarize, and I have just like 3 pages of notes, so I don't know what, like, everything you said was so amazing, I really liked, just the way you, as a child, you were already inclined, you were searching for God inside of you. There was that feeling, and somewhere Gurudev is reciprocating that very much. And you wanted to go to Israel also again for the spiritual aspect of it, but and then so you're learning martial arts, and there's Gurudev reciprocating, teaching, sending you a teacher that's already a
yeah.
devotee. And speaking of Krishnamaya Didi, I know, and Shivanand Prabhu, or both or one of them is watching. I would love to have them on as well, because your stories are so intertwined. It would be so nice to hear their experiences as well. Yeah, and then him taking you to Gurudev, and the lady coming out and telling you like in secret to about Gurudev's the festival, giving you the flyer. That's so crazy, but that's how Gurudev works, and
Yeah.
I think I can. This is kind of a similarity from a lot of the experiences that I hear in different people sharing their memories. Gurudev is kind of like relentless. He comes from different directions. When you have to meet him, you have to meet him. That's it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you resist the first meeting, but then there's something else that comes along, but he just like you have to. There's no getting out of it, Um, and then this female speaker, you were looking for a female speaker, and then he calls on Didi the first time you see that's pretty amazing. But that's again good they're reciprocating with exactly what you need at that time. I mean, I'm not gonna like go through everything, but I thought that was when you were talking about the GVP Seva, that was really, I think that's something that I haven't heard much from you. Like, I didn't know how much you were involved in the books. That's mind blowing. Shiva Tattva is such an important book. Not and then you, that being your idea, that's so cool. And Gurudev, you giving that as an offering to Gurudev, so amazing. And then all these books that you worked on, they're just like they're treasures for the future, generations to come,
Yes.
and so priceless, and full of Gurudev's Shakti. So for you to be involved in these projects, that's like just so priceless. I can't imagine anything better. And like we're Walking with a Saint, I didn't even know the stories behind those books. That's one of my favorite books. It's such an amazing
Yes.
book. You just pick it up anywhere,
Yeah.
any page, and it's like Gurudev's just communicating directly to you. A lot of times I pick up that book and like it's the first thing I read is exactly what I need to hear right then and there. It's amazing.
Yes, it
Actually,
sure
last
is.
week, I mean, a few weeks ago, Hema Didi's daughter asked me a question, and I kind of had a vague sense of the answer, but I mean, we were sitting and that book was open in front of me, and I just literally lifted up. The first thing I read was Vrinda Didi asking that same question to Gurudev.
Wow. Wow.
And this happened a couple of times, and so then I was like, Radha, here's the answer from Gurudev. So I feel like, that's, it's just an intimate darshan. Everything, every line is just Gurudev speaking to us. So, and then of course, the mass distributed book, The Way of Love, such an amazing introductory book. And then when you want to go and spend time with the devotees and you want to be part of the festivals, but you have to go and do the seva, even though, maybe at the time unwillingly, but how amazing is that? Like now that this is where you get so much mercy. And I've heard this from some other devotees in the past. Actually, Siddhanti Maharaj even mentioned, I think last year he was talking about it, that they would wait for, they were living in Mathura as well as Rup Sanatan, and they're working on books, editing, printing. That's their main seva over those years. And they would wait for Gurudev to come, and they would go wherever he was. Like they were in Jammu one year, but they were still working. They would still be working on the books. And then one day they went out. Gurudev was going for his morning walk, so they went with him. They were much behind him, like very, very far away, but they were out because they wanted to be with Gurudev. And he turned around and he said, "Oh, like in Hindi, like it seems like you've finished all your work, that you're here, like walking around. You need your exercise," like, sarcastically. So then so Maharaj said, "What do? We turn around, we go back to the room and back to our laptops," because that's how important, the book seva was. So you had the same experiences. Yeah, I think the book distribution, you inspired us so much to get out there and do book distribution. I didn't know there was like a starter pack for sponsorship. That's really amazing. I think we need to market that more, just so that no one needs to put any investment in. They can start doing this really precious seva that's so dear to Gurudev. And when you said "we paint" and then you corrected yourself, I was thinking, it's so much like a team effort. And more than anything, I've just, even with my experience with Kunj Kirtan, especially in those last days and how much you were running around, it was, there's no consciousness of like what time of day it is and what
Yeah.
is like of routine. And I got to experience that just for a few days, especially when we're doing those digital enhancements and edits, and just to be in, get a taste of being in Didi's shoes for that. It was really intense for me. I couldn't even handle it. But you were running around to the printers and the scanners and then back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But it was just, of course, yeah, it's you are very much behind materializing all of those projects of Didi's. And yeah, it just shows also how Didi's never, doesn't given any importance to her own needs and her rest and nothing at all. And I've seen this. Just to tell everyone, I remember the night that Didi and Vasanti stayed at my place where we needed to do some Photoshop work on Kunj Kirtan. I remember I was actually sick at the time, so it was actually harder for me. But I remember working till very late. I couldn't leave my desk. Me and Didi was sitting next to each other. I just couldn't leave. It was like Vasanti was making dinner and pretty much like feeding us. And it was so late at night, and I had to be like, Didi, I can't do anymore. I can't. And I begged her, please let me go to sleep. Crazy thing, next morning. And then she said, okay, finally, unwillingly, she let me go to sleep. And then the next morning, she asked me what time we could start the work again. And
Oh my gosh.
I said 6 a.m. And I couldn't even, like, for me, it takes a long time to even fall asleep. So anyway, I had my alarm. I woke up at like 6, and at 5:55, she had already called. She had already called and messaged me like, I'm waiting out here. So she's up and ready, and she was waiting for me. And I was like,
I made her not knock on your door either. I was like, don't knock on their door.
I know. She sent me a voice message like, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. Do I wait here? Are you coming? Do I knock on your door? And luckily, I was like, thank God I'm up. I'm here. And I got up at 6 and I came out, and she was so relieved to see me. And then we worked straight till then. You guys had to run to the printers. And that's where my seva ended. And yours went on for days. And another thing is, few times, actually 1 or 2 times that Vasanti has left Shamrani Didi with me, because she trusts me. I don't know why. And I've had to take care of Didi. Has been some of those most, like, I cherish those days so much. But at the end of that week, I remember one time she was at our house for a week. At the end of the week, I was exhausted. I was exhausted just taking care of these her needs all day. You're on a timetable, and then massaging her at night, and just all day. And then she's engaging you in all other services and posing with saris and whatnot all day long. And I really have so much respect that Vasanti does this all the time, every day in, day out, and I couldn't survive like a week. Anyway, so just really nice to hear about the Commonwealth Games. I didn't even know that that was going on, because I was there around those days, and I didn't even know that that whole other aspect was going on. And really touched me how you said, that I think Vajanti Mala Didi or with Vrindavan
Yeah,
Vilasini Didi
Vasanti.
said do your seva. Such a it's like really kind of hit me, because I was just thinking, what was I doing then? Like, I should have been out doing this service, but I wasn't. So I think that's a lesson for me. Yeah, I think that's kind of just sums up my notes, but it was really, really nice to hear just all the interactions that you've had with Gurudev. That's just, you're so fortunate, and Gurudev very much loves you so much, and
He loves
really
all of us.
all of us, of course, but even not letting you take money from your parents, things like that. Such an intimate thing, because he's like, you're mine, I'm taking responsibility for you. Don't worry about anything. So it's just so special. Ajay Prabhu, please add whatever you would like to add.
Thank you, Didi. Thank you so much. Haripriya Didi, you asked so many nice questions so that Didi could speak so much more, which would have not been possible otherwise. And Vasanti Didi, it was so nice to hear you. How a rich girl from aristocratic background is living such austere life because of Gurudev's love, and living her life in Vrindavan Dham and serving all over the world. It's amazing. And how a girl who is learning martial arts, so tough on outside, has such a soft heart inside and such a loving heart, and doing such beautiful seva. It's amazing. And how you wanted to avoid, when Gurudev came for first meeting, you went for Kirtan instead of meeting Gurudev. But that Kirtan led you to Gurudev. I mean, it's amazing. And you talked about Narsingh Chaturdashi, the first meeting with Gurudev, right?
First class, yeah.
Yeah, I have a clip of that. Maybe it is the same or maybe it's different. I don't know. I want to share with you. You just verify if it is the same one. I'll just share it with you. It's just 50 seconds, not very long. Somehow it is not starting. Wait, let me do it again.
What are you doing? What are you doing? You know me? I'm Hiranyakasipu!
At once, Hiranyakasipu came. Hiranyakasipu at once came. Oh, this wicked boy is making all the boys destroyed.
Found that.
Now I am going to kill you. At once, I will see that who.
So was this the one
Um,
or different?
I think that might have been a different year. I can't believe you found that clip so fast.
No, actually, Radhika found it. She already had it. And I thought maybe it is the same. So I just remember. Yeah, he came really loud, Maharaji there.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
that the
that was-
shingadis kid they would do.
that was
Gurudev
scary.
loved it. He would laugh and laugh.
And Didi, it was really nice to know. I didn't even know that you had done so much work on these books, especially Shiva Tattva was inspired by you. I mean, it is amazing that you started this book and Gurudev gave you such blessing on your pat on your head. And this book has inspired so many people. In fact, Radha Dasi from New Delhi, Indian devotee, she spoke about her life history and she was a Shiv Bhakt, very
Wow.
very strong Shiv Bhakt. She didn't want to leave Shiva at all, and she didn't leave for a lot
Wow.
of time after she met Gurudev also. But when she read this book, she was totally changed. So I can see how your inspiration is affecting so many people. And not only this, all other books also like Journey of the Soul. I think our Vijay Prabhu, he read this book and he was inspired in maybe I think this book or some. But all these books are so inspiring and life changing. And you're doing such a beautiful seva about these books. And you also spoke about these books, Way of Love, My Shiksha Guru, Priya Bandhu, Origin of Rath Yatra, Journey of the Soul, Gopi Geet. Today only I heard that Gopi Geet is so inspiring. Today morning I was totally drowned in it. This Gurudev sang, and I shared with my daughter also. So these things are amazing seva, which will keep inspiring people for years to come. For people who don't know Gurudev, they will hear and then they will get inspired. That such a Mahabhagat sang, such a beautiful thing. So I can't thank you enough for bringing Gurudev to all of us, in so many people's lives. And Soul of Book distribution also. Then we didn't know anything about book sponsorship program, so it's very nice. And what you said about the book distribution is really nice. Somebody's name is on each book. When you see a box, you said this, make the statement, somebody's name is on each book, and somebody is suffering some corner of this world, and his life will change by reading this book. It is so true. This is like Gurudev, you're giving Gurudev to so many people who are suffering. And you're serving 600 prison libraries, the books have gone. And how you're going to all the prisons and serving the people who are most in a difficult situation speaks so much about your heart, which is so ready to help people who are suffering. And then you talk about flooding the world. What idea to flood the world? Yes, we should flood the world with Gurudev's books, Gurudev's talks, Gurudev's videos, whatever we can. They should be everywhere. And yeah, so many things I've. And you talked about Didi, how she paints. She doesn't remember her body at all. This is what meditation, super meditation. And My daughter is saying it's late. Don't summarize so much. So okay, I'll have to stop here now. No, but it is so nice. Lastly, the last thing you said, I'll miss all those things. And how Gurudev went for 100 Russians in such a heat. That's also amazing how Gurudev wants to go. And he already knows so many people are waiting for them, which you don't even know. And then how he shoots flame atoms at you whenever you meet. And then he said, we are lucky sharing her to your mother, I think. To your
To my
father,
father.
yeah, father, yeah. So how is his relationship is such strong with you, daughterly relationship and so much love, and how he said you are working for the best garden, and I will take her to eternal garden, and I'm sure he will take you. He's already taken you halfway, and only some part is left. And then at the end you said, Gurudev said, you ended your program with the Gurudev's words about your mother. I think she was somewhat impressed. And I think not she, whole world is somewhat impressed, somewhat what, they are totally impressed. And we are all drowning in his memories. And Didi, thank you so much for
inviting me, Prabhu.
being here. Thank you so much. I'm so indebted to your services and to what you've spoken today. It inspired so many people, so nice. Not many people understand English so well, so not many people listen to this, but this is recorded and it will be kept. So people will hear later also. So thank you so much, Didi. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Haripriya Didi.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Haripriya.
Prabhu.
Thank you, all the
Jai
listeners.
Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Tomorrow we're going to have Gopijan Vallabh Prabhu. Very
nice.
senior devotee and living, I think, in the same place as you are. From
Yeah, I can
Vrindavan.
hear him live.
Yes. So he'll be there with us. And I've been seeing him from 90s actually. And I have never talked to him. First time I talked to him was a few days back when I invited him to this program.
Wow.
So I've seen him always quiet. I never heard his word also and I've seen him doing seva, but that's it.
Yeah.
So very elevated devotee. We'll hear from him tomorrow. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
It'll be so nice.
Over to you, Haripriya Didi.
That's it, Prabhu. Nice to hear and associate with you all. One thing, we need to also get Anita Didi on here.
Yes,
Well,
we'll
she's
plan
coming
her.
to your house soon, so you can work on it then.
She's coming to my house like
Next
week today. Yeah, like on Tuesday next. So maybe if there's a date, then we can maybe do it live, like across from each other or something.
Great.
Okay.
That'll be awesome.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
And,